Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. Please stay tuned as our broadcast will start soon. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. Please stay tuned as our broadcast will start soon.
No. They said it's a special radio that only picks up this particular, like the KSMU radio. It's a special radio.
Yeah, like I downloaded an app that was supposed to, I don't know. Hey, work. Probably right about it.
You guys are ready to go.
Okay. Thank you for tuning in to the Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service. My name is Kelly and I'm here with Tony. We invite you to listen to our broadcast both live and on demand. Our live sessions are available on the Blind Community Thrift Store YouTube channel Monday to Friday between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. each week. Additionally, you can access on-demand content through the Audio Reader Network, which offers a wide range of audio materials for the visually impaired community. To explore content from the Audio Reader Network, please visit www.reader.ku.edu. The site provides details about accessing content via Amazon Alexa, Audio Reader Network mobile app, and information on receiving a radio to listen to the broadcast by KSMU Radio. All broadcasts are played over KSMU's subcarrier airwaves at 67 kilohertz on 91.1 from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Contact Audio Reader Network for information on receiving a pre-programmed radio.
And celebrate Missouri's Arbor Days by planting native trees. Janice Reeser with the Springfield News-Leader says the Missouri Department of Conservation is encouraging residents to celebrate the value of Missouri trees and forests during Arbor Days in April, according to a community announcement. Missourians can participate by planting native trees and practicing proper tree care, according to the announcement. Missouri has been observing the state's official Arbor Day on the first Friday in April for 140 years. The day was established by the General Assembly in 1886 to promote the appreciation and planting of trees. National Arbor Day will be observed on April 24th. So what about resources for tree care? The department offers information on backyard tree care, including selecting the right tree, planting tips, watering and pruning advice, and more. More details are available at mdc.mo.gov. Missouri residents can purchase native tree and shrub seedlings from the George O. White State Forest Nursery near Licking. The seedlings are available for reforestation, windbreaks, erosion control, and wildlife habitats. Orders will be accepted through April 15th. For more information, again, you can visit mdc.mo.gov. Communities across Missouri also host local Arbor Day activities. Information on Arbor Day and Missouri's Tree City USA communities can be found at arborday.org. So what about the benefits of Missouri forests? Missouri forests cover about 1/3 of the state, providing outdoor recreation, wildlife habitats, natural beauty, and watersheds, according to the announcement. Spending time in Missouri forests can offer health benefits as exposure to nature contributes to physical well-being, reduces blood pressure and heart rate, relieves stress, and boosts energy. Additional information is available at mdc.mo.gov.
From the Springfield Daily Citizen, SPS places priority on Central's Harrison Stadium, pausing a plan for indoor athletic centers. Board hires engineer surveyor to develop plans for building a field house, upgrading restrooms, and concessions. Drury University also has some wish list items for expansion. Springfield Public Schools is pausing a plan to build athletic training centers in order to upgrade one of its existing stadiums. The Springfield Board of Education on Tuesday, March 24th, approved 2 contracts for expanding Central High School's Harrison Stadium. $485,000 to Oak Thomas and Associates to prepare architectural and engineering designs, and $29,850 to Olson Inc. for surveying in order to verify boundaries and easements. Both firms will help prepare plans for a construction project that can be bid at a later date, according to board documentation. Travis Shaw, Deputy Superintendent of Operations, said in an interview with the Daily Citizen that the upgrades to Harrison Stadium have taken priority over building an indoor athletic centers that would be shared among the district schools. The Springfield Board of Education set aside $7.5 million in the current school's budget for funding those centers. We looked at several things within our capital budget and had to pause and prioritize, Shaw said. We absolutely felt like the renovations to Harrison had to take precedence over adding new facilities. So we will take that $7.5 million, and that will be devoted to this renovation. Harrison Stadium, originally built in 1936, has been on the district's radar for improvement for at least a year. Located 2 blocks away from the school at the intersection of Central and Summit, it is the home stadium for Central High School's football, soccer, and track teams. It is also part of Drury's Curry Sports Complex and hosts the university's soccer teams. The university made renovations to the stadium in 2004 and 2010. Both Central and Drury students have access to it and often share the space at the same time. Central's marching band has held practice sessions on the football field while Drury students use the track, for instance. But the center does not meet Central's needs compared to what the district's other high schools have. Athletics Director Josh Scott said that SPS wants to construct a new field house for its teams. One of the things we are really focusing on is the functionality of a field house for our athletes, trying to provide a space for changing, team room, film, and all of the things that you do now in 2026 with a football program, Scott said. We also have soccer there, track and field, cross country, so the functionality of how we can create a space to provide for multiple teams at the same time. Scott said that SPS also wants to improve areas for concessions and restrooms to enhance viewing experience for spectators. Accessibility and security upgrades are also sought. Shaw said the property is owned by SPS, so it took on the costs for engineering and planning. The school district has had more than 20-year agreement with Drury to share use of the space. Shaw said SPS is in communication with Drury about what an expansion could look like. Drury officials confirmed the communication with SPS. Chris Belvin, a spokesperson for the university, said Drury is interested in SPS planned upgrades, but also has some wish list items. An expansion of the track from 6 to 8 lanes, making it competition level. Relocating the press box from its current spot at the 25-yard line. Additional storage in another practice field. Pending successful conversations and planning, Shaw said the district would like to start work on an expansion at the end of the upcoming football season. The plan is from the time the fall season ends and before the next season begins that the renovations have been completed and we have our upgraded facility ready to go, Shaw said. A stadium project could help rejuvenate the school's beleaguered football program. Last year, the district canceled the varsity team's season before it began because of a lack of participation. The team fielded only 25 players, 9 of whom were freshmen. The district also cut short the school's junior varsity program, halting its season in October. The roster had declined because of injuries and academic ineligibility. New coach John Eli, who replaced resigning Shem Johnson, is working to field a varsity team for the 2026-27 season. The contracts for design were approved Tuesday with a single 5-0 to 1 vote as part of the board's consent agenda. Purchases and contracts that are less than $500,000 can be placed in that consent agenda according to board policy. During budget discussions for the 2025-26 school year, the district set aside $7.5 million for such centers which offer indoor practice space to athletic teams. In that discussion, Superintendent Granita Latham noted that Harrison Stadium needed improvements to match what other high schools have, and that means putting a pause on indoor athletic centers. I think they are more than a nice to have. We're not going to invest in those kind of dollars for a nice to have, Shaw said. But when we have to evaluate on prioritization, they are not a critical need right now. We absolutely feel like these renovations at Harrison are something critical that we can take care of. The consent agenda approved on Tuesday contains contracts that affect other SPS athletic facilities. $359,550 with Byrne and Jones Construction to install new synthetic turf at a Parkview baseball field. The contract includes demolishing the existing surface and earthwork for the new surface, as well as renovating bullpens, a backstop, and dugout fence padding. $210,565 with Nabholz Construction Services for a concession stand at Hillcrest High School's football field. Deeper analysis of the district's athletic centers will be part of a facility master plan that the board approved Tuesday, Shaw said. That plan will be used to develop construction and renovation proposals in the future. Joe Hadsel is the education reporter for the Springfield Daily Citizen. Hadsel has more than 2 decades of experience reporting in the Ozarks with the Joplin Globe, Christian County Headliner News, and 417 Magazine. You can contact him at 417-837-3671.
And the mom of a murder victim speaks on behalf of the man involved at his sentencing. Story by Jackie Rewald in the Springfield Daily Citizen begins with a photo of Shelley Lyric, whose son, Chandler Swaney, was murdered in 2021. It's been just over 5 years since 23-year-old Chandler Swaney rented a room to a drug dealer named Ricky Rose. Swaney, someone described as a trusting young man who always sought to find the good in others, had no idea Rose used or dealt drugs. On the night of February 1st, 2021, soon after Rose moved in, known gang members Paul Morales and Timothy Johnson came to Swaney's residence in the 2800 block of West Chestnut Street to rob Rose. Morales shot and killed Swaney while Swaney was sitting on the couch in his living room watching television. All 3 men, Morales, Johnson, and Rose, were convicted of murder. Missouri's felony murder rule holds people culpable if they commit a felony and someone is killed as a result. Following is a booking photo of Ricky Rose taken by the Greene County Sheriff's Office in his black and gray striped uniform. Since Swaney's murder, Rose has been in the Greene County Jail in federal custody. Last month, Rose pleaded guilty in federal court to 1 count of conspiracy to distribute 500 grams or more of methamphetamine and 1 count of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Rose, now 39, was sentenced on those federal charges to 13 years on Tuesday, March 24th, in District Judge Roseanne Ketchmark's courtroom. He also faces a 10-year sentence on the murder conviction. Swaney's mother, Shelley Lyric, came to Tuesday's hearing. "I am here today because Ricky asked me to be here," Lyric told the judge. "Not because he believes my presence will help his sentence, but because he believes I deserve the respect of having my voice heard. Neither Ricky nor his attorney knows what I'm going to say." Lyric went on to speak about her son. The moment she first said her son's name, Rose began to cry. "Chandler was a good kid. He was involved in football, choir, and band in high school," Lyric continued. "After graduation, he worked 2 jobs and was focused on building his future. He had a full life ahead of him and people who loved him. He opened his home to someone because he was trying to help, and that decision cost him his life." Lyric told the judge that it was Morales, not Rose, who murdered her son, and that Morales has never shown any remorse or looked her in the eye. "I've told Ricky that I do not blame him for Chandler's death, but I do hold him accountable for the choices he made leading up to it, bringing things into my son's home that did not belong there, and placing him in a situation my son did not fully understand," she said. "Those choices mattered, and they had consequences." Lyric told Judge Ketchmark that Rose, at a previous sentencing hearing related to her son's murder, looked her in the eye and said he was sorry over and over. "As a parent who has lost a child, that mattered. It showed a willingness to face what was done rather than avoid it," Lyric continued. Nothing will bring my son back, but I want the court to understand this. Remorse and acknowledgement do matter. They matter to me. I am not a pushover. I am a fierce mama bear. I believe I have good judgment when it comes to sincerity, and I do believe Ricky's remorse is sincere, she said. He has taken accountability for his actions, expressed repeatedly that he wishes it had been him instead of Chandler. I believe him when he says that. And he has demonstrated a genuine desire to do better with his life. Lyric told the judge that she forgives Rose even though he has never asked for forgiveness and has said he doesn't deserve forgiveness. I gave it because forgiveness does not excuse accountability. It acknowledges growth, she said. I am not here to ask for leniency that ignores accountability. Accountability is necessary. But I do believe Ricky has the capacity to change. Before he was sentenced for the federal charges, Judge Ketchmark gave Rose a chance to speak. He asked if he could turn to face Lyric seated in the gallery. Ketchmark allowed this, but told the handcuffed and shackled Rose he would need to still speak into the microphone so she could hear him as well. Rose repeatedly told Lyric he was sorry and said he wished he could trade places with her son. It's hard to look you in the eye, he said, weeping. I am sorry. According to the plea agreement from the federal case, Rose admitted to conspiring with 3 other individuals to distribute 500 or more grams of methamphetamine between October 2020 and June 2021. He also admitted to being a felon and knowingly possessing 2 firearms in December 2020. At the start of Tuesday's hearing, Judge Ketchmark spent several minutes going over Rose's criminal history, which dated back to 2008. The judge listed numerous misdemeanor crimes, including multiple charges of stealing, theft, driving while revoked, trespassing, open container, and littering. She also listed at least 1 felony, including assault. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jessica Eatman described Rose as having the, quote, most criminal history points I've ever seen for someone who had few felonies. She called Rose the, quote, poster child for what happens when you mix drugs and guns, and said he was the least culpable defendant in the conspiracy. Ultimately, his actions led to the death of an individual who wasn't involved, the prosecutor said. That is tragic. Eatman and Rose's defense attorney, David Back, told the judge they agreed to a 13-year sentence for the federal charges would be appropriate. According to the sentencing memorandum filed by the prosecutor, Rose's felony murder conviction was not used in calculating the federal sentence because Swaney was not killed under circumstances that would constitute murder under the federal murder statute. The killing did not take place within the territorial or maritime jurisdiction of the United States, and Rose did not kill anyone, let alone with malice aforethought, and his underlying crime of drug trafficking is not a basis for felony murder at the federal level, the prosecutor wrote. Back, the defense attorney, described how his client was changed by Swaney's murder in his sentencing memorandum. Back wrote in part, it is difficult to convince the court that a middle-aged man with Rose's criminal history has been changed by any single event or any one conviction, but in this case, Mr. Rose has been changed by the events 5 years ago and for the better. During this drug conspiracy back in 2020, Mr. Rose was living day-to-day, drug use to drug use, and living the lifestyle that he grew up in. Since he wasn't employed back then and since he had a daily methamphetamine habit, he sold drugs to sustain himself and his addiction. Back then, frankly speaking, Mr. Rose did not care about others, and he didn't care about the evil consequences that the use and distribution of methamphetamine caused within our community. That changed, however, 5 years ago when Mr. Rose saw firsthand the extreme violence that comes with the distribution of drugs and the terrible impact it has on the innocent and the uninvolved. Back wrote that Rose has instructed him many times over the years to not use Swaney's murder as mitigation out of respect to the innocent and their family, but that Back was mentioning it in the memorandum only to say that the tragedy impacted Rose deeply and it has changed him for the better. Back wrote that the change did not happen at first, and it didn't happen just because Rose was arrested and detained for the past 5 years. Back wrote and said in court Tuesday that the change in Rose had nothing to do with anything Back did or said to Rose. It happened during his detention with the help and guidance of others that reached out to him while in jail and who have maintained communications to the present, Back wrote. Again, frankly speaking, counsel believes that this communication not only has been very therapeutic in nature to Mr. Rose, it was instrumental in the positive change counsel has seen in him. Following is a photo of Shelley Lyric showing some information found in his notebook. Apparently in the notebook, Swaney would write about what he was grateful for, including his health and healing. The communication Back referred to is, at least in part, from Lyric, who began reaching out to Rose via the jail messaging system soon after her son was murdered. What started out as a grieving mother begging Rose to tell the authorities who shot her son, which Rose eventually did, evolved into communications in which Rose expressed remorse to Lyric, and Lyric held Rose responsible for his actions. When asked about her and Rose's communications over the past 5 years, Lyric said, "I hold him accountable without excusing his actions, but I choose grace and hope, believing in his effort to take responsibility and become better despite the tragedy his life choices caused." Outside the courthouse on Tuesday, Lyric spoke again with the Daily Citizen. She was emotional, saying how much it meant to her that Rose turned to face her and looked her in the eye when he apologized. "It's rare. You hardly ever get that," she said, of the remorse from someone involved in her son's murder. "I'm grateful for it. You want to know your son was seen, and they understand the enormity of what was taken. And I believe Ricky does. I know Paul Morales. I haven't seen no remorse from him at all, but I have seen that from Ricky. I had mixed emotions coming in here today," she continued. "Part of me, I don't even know. Do I even like Ricky Rose? I don't know." Lyric said she struggled with the idea of coming to yet another court hearing related to her son's murder, but she felt Sweeney would have wanted her to represent his legacy. Do better, be better. Do Better, Be Better is the foundation Lyric created in honor of her son. The foundation provides scholarships for at-risk youth, most of whom are in custody of the Department of Youth Services and are working to do better and be better. "It gets really exhausting still after 5 years. It would be easier for me to leave it on the shelf some days," she said. "But that is what makes me get up, because Chandler would still believe that Ricky can make better decisions and change his life." Following is an undated photo of Chandler Sweeney as a toddler being held by his mom, Shelley Lyric. "I think my son would have been right up there with me, speaking on behalf of Ricky, cheering him on," she said, "and encouraging him to do better, because that is who Chandler was. To his core, that is who he was. And that is how he ended up in this situation. Giving Rose a bedroom to rent is how he ended up in this situation."
From the Springfield News-Leader, Mo Supreme Court sides with legislature on redistricting and voter ID law. The Missouri Supreme Court handed down 3 rulings Tuesday that could shape the 2026 election, saying lawmakers had the authority to pass a new congressional map last year, leaving intact the state's photo ID requirement for voters and striking down limits on voter registration and absentee ballot outreach. The decisions gave Missouri Republicans a major win in the fight over congressional redistricting and preserved one of the state's most contested voting laws, even as the court drew a constitutional line around how far Missouri can go in redistricting civic groups trying to get people registered into the polls. On redistricting, in a 4-3 ruling, the court rejected arguments that the Missouri Constitution allows lawmakers to redraw congressional lines only once a decade after a new census. Instead, the majority said the Constitution requires the legislature to act after each census, but does not expressly bar it from returning later to pass another map. Missouri Republicans pushed through the new congressional plan last year after pressure from President Donald Trump and allies eager to make Missouri's Kansas City area district more winnable for the GOP. But the political fight over the map is not over. The campaign behind a referendum seeking to overturn it, People Not Politicians, said Monday that updated data shows that it has enough valid signatures in the required congressional districts to qualify for the November ballot. The referendum got another boost last week when a Cole County judge ordered changes to the ballot summary written for the measure, finding parts of it tilted in favor of the new map. Writing for the majority in the redistricting case, Judge Zell Fisher said the Constitution tells lawmakers when they must redraw districts, but not the only time that they may do so. Judge Paul Wilson, in dissent, said the language and history point the other way, that the Constitution was written to require one redistricting after each census, not to invite mid-decade do-overs whenever the party in power sees an advantage. The voter ID ruling turned more on who could sue than on the law itself. In that case, the court left intact Missouri's 2022 law requiring voters casting a regular ballot in person to show a government-issued photo ID, but the judges split over why. A 4-judge majority said the individual voters and civic groups challenging the law had not shown that the requirement had actually kept them from voting, so the courts could not decide the broader constitutional question. 3 other judges disagreed, saying the challengers had shown enough to sue but would still have lost on the merits. The case centered on stories that opponents said showed the burden of the law. One voter testified that a seizure disorder made travel difficult and left her worried a signature mismatch could sink a provisional ballot. Another said she feared trouble because her first name was spelled differently on her identification in voter registration. The court's majority said those concerns were too speculative because both had successfully voted since the law took effect. The photo ID requirement was part of a wide-ranging 2022 elections bill that also created 2 weeks of no-excuse early in-person voting before Election Day. Republicans had spent years trying to enact a strict photo ID requirement in Missouri. Earlier versions had been struck down or tied up in court before voters approved a constitutional amendment in 2016 allowing such a law. In another 4-3 decision, the court affirmed a lower court ruling that blocked several provisions governing voter registration and absentee ballot outreach. The judges struck down the ban on paying people to solicit voter registration applications, the requirement that people who solicit more than 10 registration applications register with the state, the requirement that those solicitors must be Missouri voters and at least 18 years old, and the ban on soliciting voters to obtain absentee ballot applications. Judge Mary Russell, writing for the majority, said those provisions swept too broadly into protected political speech and went too far in criminalizing voter registration and absentee ballot outreach by civic groups. The state argued the rules were aimed at fraud prevention, privacy, and election integrity. The majority said those interests were not enough to justify such broad restrictions. That ruling means groups such as the League of Women Voters of Missouri and the Missouri NAACP can continue the kinds of voter outreach they said the 2022 law chilled. A lower court had already blocked those provisions first before the 2022 election and then permanently in 2024. Tuesday's decision keeps that relief in place. Judge Ginger Gooch, in dissent, would have upheld 3 of the 4 challenged outreach restrictions and struck down only the ban on soliciting voters to obtain absentee ballot applications. This story was first published at MissouriIndependent.com.
And celebrating several holidays today, we have International Whiskey Day, National Joe Day, where we celebrate anyone with the name Joe, National Scribble Day, National Spanish Paella Day, No Homework Day, Quirky Country Music Song Titles Day, and World Theater Day. And speaking of the theater and the arts, the Springfield Art Museum is debuting free monthly activities on the lawn. Janice Reeser with the Springfield News-Leader says the Springfield Art Museum is launching On the Lawn, a new free monthly outdoor series inviting the community to unwind, create, and connect on the museum's Hatch Lawn. Starting in April and running through October, the lawn will host activities every second Saturday of the month, according to a community announcement. The events will feature hands-on art experiences, yoga and wellness sessions led by the Wellness Collective, live music, yard games, and volunteer opportunities, including Fast Night Creek cleanups. All activities are free to attend, with some sessions requiring advanced registration to ensure adequate supplies and staffing. Registration links are available at sgfmuseum.org/onthelawn. Visitors are encouraged to bring a lawn chair, blanket, picnic, or sketchbook to enjoy a relaxing morning outdoors. The first event will take place from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. April 11th. The schedule includes free yoga with the Wellness Collective at 8 a.m., followed by a Fast Night Creek cleanup at 9 a.m. From 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., attendees can participate in yard games and a self-guided art activity. Live music will be provided by Stevie Newman at 10 a.m. and Joe Dillstrom at 11 a.m. A gesture drawing session will be held at 11:30 a.m., which also requires registration. As for future events, May 9th will feature similar activities with yoga and a creek cleanup in the morning, followed by yard games, take-home watercolor activity, and a live artist demonstration. Music will be performed by Ozarks Mountain Strings at 10 a.m. and the Springfield Youth Symphony Quartet at noon. On June 13th, The event will include a hands-on watercolor, water blister activity, and music by 83 Skidoo. July 11th and August 8th will feature nature art activities in collaboration with the James River Basin Partnership, with live performances by the Shandies and GenJX in July and Drifters Mile in August. September's event will introduce sound bathing and music-making art activities, with Ozark Mountain Strings performing again, along with C Street Jamboree. The final event on October 10th will include a nature art activity and music by DJ Imperial. On-the-lawn activities are weather-dependent. While the Springfield Art Museum building is closed for construction, the Hatch Lawn remains open. Portable restrooms will be available during on-the-lawn events. Community members interested in volunteering for the series can register online. The series is supported by the Melinda J. McDaniel Charitable Trust, UW, Bank of America, NA, Trustee, the Hatch Foundation, and an Arts and Culture operating grant from the Springfield Regional Arts Council. For more information, contact Nicole Chilton, Communications Specialist, at nicole.chilton@springfieldmo.gov or at 417-874-2861.
From the Springfield Daily Citizen, Steve Pokin, the answer man. It's nearly impossible to see pavement markings for lanes on diverging diamond on rainy nights. Answer man, I frequently drive over the diverging diamond on South National Avenue near Cox Health Medical Center South. That intersection is a nightmare at night in the rain because you can't see the lines on the pavement. As they say, if we can put a man on the moon, then why can't they make reflective road paint that is visible at night in the rain? From Vicki Hicks of Springfield. Steve Pokin, the answer man, says, my effort to answer your question, Vicki, led me to David Mitchell, a spokesman for the Missouri Department of Transportation here in Springfield. David uses the term retroreflectivity. That, right off the bat, I'll need to explain. Retroreflective material reflects light back at the source. Reflective materials reflect light back in various directions. Retroreflective materials have tiny glass beads or prisms that redirect the light straight back to its source, such as the headlights of a vehicle. Such material commonly is used in traffic signs and safety clothing for workers who operate at night or in low light settings. It is highly effective for enhancing visibility. These glass beads must be embedded in the marking material, which is the paint used in the highway. The glass beads cannot be covered by the paint. So far, so good. But now, let's say it rains. Here's the problem, according to Mitchell. Water covers the painted stripe. Water changes how light is refracted by the glass beads. Instead of light reflecting back to the driver, a higher percentage of the light is bent and scattered in other directions. The result is a noticeable drop in retroreflectivity. Is there a solution? Yes, Mitchell says. Make the small glass beads a little bit bigger. The bigger the bead, the less likely it is to be submerged in water. MoDOT has switched to using larger beads to help with this issue, Mitchell tells me. The bad news, Vicki, is that MoDOT made the switch in 2015, so I'm guessing that these bigger beads are actually in use, and the frustration you have about not seeing the road markings at night in the rain on the diverging diamond will continue. This is the Answer Man column number 169. Steve Pokin writes the Pokin Around and the Answer Man columns for the Springfield Daily Citizen. He also writes about criminal justice issues. He can be reached at spokin@sgfcitizen.org. His office line is 417-837-3661.
And the AG's office tells 2 unlicensed Ozarks dispensaries to cease and desist. Marta Mees with the Springfield News-Leader says the Missouri Attorney General's office has sent out 33 cease and desist letters to marijuana dispensaries around the state. 2 of those target unlicensed dispensaries in the Ozarks. Attorney General Catherine Hanaway is demanding the businesses stop selling, quote, adulterated, deceptive products often marketed as marijuana, according to an AG office news release. While the vast majority of the letters went to retailers in the St. Louis and Kansas City regions, 2 dispensaries in the Ozarks also received a warning: Swin Dispensary in Nixa and Puffer's Choice in Clever. According to the release, lab testing revealed many of the 33 businesses sold substances that contain lead, arsenic, mercury, ethanol, and other contaminants, solvents, pesticides, or unknown byproducts. Products were marketed as cannabis or marijuana despite being outside of Missouri's constitutional framework that pertains to the legal sale of marijuana since the businesses were not licensed, per the AG's office. Following is a photo of Missouri Attorney General Catherine Hanaway in her bright blue suit, looking very unimpressed. She's listening to a news conference. A sample letter sent to a Kansas City area business specifically referenced the selling of hemp-derived products with Delta-9 THC concentrations of more than 0.3%, which is considered marijuana. The cease and desist warns that if the business continues to operate as is, subsequent legal action could follow. Swin also has other locations in the area, though those were not named in the AG's news release. According to previous News-Leader reporting, the business focused on selling CBD-rich cannabis strains that fall below the 0.3% THC levels and are therefore legal under federal law and excluded from the state's marijuana regulations. Though the AG's office in its letters indicated the products were being marketed as being legitimate marijuana products and deceiving customers. Blake Swindle, founder and CEO of Swin Dispensaries, declined to comment on the letter at this time as his legal team reviews the matter. Puffer's Choice could not be reached for comment by publication deadline. In November, both Puffer's Choice and Swin Dispensaries were subject to civil investigative demands by the AG's office that required each company to disclose detailed information about the manufacturing, processing, and chemical composition of products, ingredients used, representations made to customers, and other information. According to a previous news release, the demands were prompted by reports of customers possibly being exposed to, quote, unregulated, chemically altered, and deceptively marketed THC-like substances. The AG's office encourages Missourians who believe they were misled or harmed by illegal intoxicating cannabinoid products to file a consumer protection complaint at ago.mo.gov.
From the Springfield Business Journal. City returns to voters with the 3% tourism tax for the convention center. Voters in the city of Springfield will decide April 7th on a funding measure for a proposed downtown convention and events center. The city is seeking an additional 3% lodging tax to be assessed to visitors of its hotels, motels, and short-term rentals, with funds to be used for a construction of a center at the site of the current Springfield Expo Center and on a vacant lot beside it. It's an issue some city residents thought was settled in November of 2025 when voters rejected a similar tax. Only 7% of registered voters cast ballots, according to past Springfield Business Journal reporting, and although 52% of voters opposed the measure, that was a difference of just 382 votes, per the Greene County Clerk's office. The new ballot measure is largely the same, but for the addition of a 35-year sunset to what was originally proposed as a permanent lodging tax. Additionally, funds would be used not only for construction of a convention and events center, but also for its operation and maintenance. A 2025 report by Chicago-based paid consulting group Hunden Strategic Partners, Inc., estimates that the center would generate $1.3 billion in net new visitor spending and $68.7 million in net new fiscal impact over 30 years, according to past SBJ reporting. Springfield City Council set a hard cap of $175 million on construction costs for the center, with a maximum of $205 million if the city receives an already approved $30 million appropriation from the Missouri legislature, currently withheld by Governor Mike Kehoe. Previous SBJ reporting estimates that first-year revenue from the 3% tax at $4.9 million, and by the 35th and final year, the estimated $21 million. Total revenue from the tax is estimated at $407 million. Annual debt service on the $145 million project would begin at $3.7 million in the first year and would rise to $13.7 million in 2057, the final year. According to past SBJ reporting, the measure would collect 5 years of taxes past the retirement of the 30-year bond. Additionally, the funding stack includes reallocation of revenue from the city's existing 5% lodging tax, part of which goes toward bond debt on construction of the Brightspeed Ice Park for maintenance. The Ice Park bond is projected to be paid off in 2028, 2 years ahead of schedule. The Hunden report states that a 400-room connected hotel operated by a recognized brand is essential to the project and estimated the cost at $209 million, separate from the cost of the center itself. City officials say this would be accomplished through a private developer. David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute, penned a guest column in SBJ prior to the November election to suggest city voters take a skeptical approach to the city's revenue claims regarding the center. Raising the specter of a nearly empty downtown convention center in St. Louis, Stokes cited data by researcher Haywood Sanders saying cities systemically inflate revenue projections of convention centers in order to get projects approved. Stokes also noted that 2 competing convention centers are close by in Branson and in Lake of the Ozarks. City Manager David Cameron is quick to admit the city made mistakes with its first ballot measure, and that's something he said he learned by going out to the community and listening to residents. It expanded my awareness and knowledge of the overall community itself, neighborhoods, and businesses, about how you put things together and how you communicate things in advance, he said. It added more perspective to this project and how we need to move and share our story. Cameron said it was important for him to gain a better perspective on what happened with the November ballot issue with what he considers to be a concerningly low turnout. You have to learn from these opportunities, and the only way to learn is to go out and visit with people. Cora Scott, the city's Director of Public Information and Civic Engagement, also reflected on some lessons gleaned from the failed ballot measure during her March 17th appearance at SBJ's People You Need to Know live interview series. The main thing that you heard were people wanted to see some sort of visual. They wanted to understand what this could be, and they needed more information pinned down. It was too nebulous. It was too broad, she said. A reveal of initial design renderings by architect Populous Inc. was scheduled for the afternoon of March 19th after SBJ's print deadline, though coverage is planned at sbj.net. Scott said an important takeaway is that the building would be more than a convention center. It's really a multi-purpose building that could be flipped to have an indoor soccer field. It could be used for graduations. It could be used for a variety of different things. It would really be a gathering space for the community. In all of the discussion of a potential downtown convention and event center, Mark Heckett hopes a key concept has broken through. Heckett, president and CEO of Visit Springfield, Missouri, sees the potential center as a business magnet. The center itself is one part of a sort of much bigger potential economic boon for the city. In lots of cities, centers go in and become business attractor of sorts, whether it be from hotels, restaurants, entertainment, all of those types of things. And Heckett said it's not necessary to look for an example. It's not necessary to look far for an example. In Oklahoma City, he said, the city built its convention center next to a park in an attempt to connect the city with the river. 5 years ago, it was an isolated building, but today, Heckett said, the building is situated amid transformative growth. The OKC Center was also designed by Populous. The headline for a January article in the Oklahoma City Free Press touts the success of the center, noting, 5 years in, OKC Convention Center surpasses goals. Since opening, the article states, the $288 million convention center hosted more than 700 events, welcomed nearly 970,000 attendees, and generated $147 million in direct spending from its launch in 2021 during the COVID-19 pandemic through 2025. The article cites the center's general manager, Barbara Beaton, as saying the demand has accelerated to the point that the center is booking events into 2030. Like the proposed Springfield Center, Oklahoma City also hosts local events. Private development has happened in the area of the Oklahoma City Convention Center, including a 605-room Omni Hotel. Oklahoma City's center has served as an economic driver, and a private industry came along to maximize it, Heckett said. He added that Kansas City offers a similar nearby example with its convention center in the Power and Light District, a center for nightlife and entertainment. There is a secondary economic boom that can come from such developments, Hackett said. We haven't really told that story too much. For every city that has one of these, there has been additional significant private investments surrounding it. Hackett, whose organization is focused on bringing conventions to the Queen City, said he has heard the narrative that the city already has a convention center. We don't, he said. We never have. The Springfield Expo Center is not a convention center, he said, but a big space with a concrete floor designed for shows and expositions. He noted a functional convention center requires more breakout rooms and a ballroom space large enough to accommodate all attendees. Further, the Expo Center was never built the way it was supposed to be, Hackett said. For instance, he said, an arena was to have been built next door to it to complement the space, and that has never happened. Further, the Expo Center lacks modern needs of meeting spaces. There's a space for a kitchen that was never built, he said. We need to be able to create a venue that is flexible, he said. The proposed center would be able to host indoor sporting events with a floor space for 16 volleyball courts or 8 basketball courts, then change the next day to accommodate a convention or meeting. Hackett said tourism is big business for Springfield. We at Visit Springfield live in the tourism space, and we've forgotten to tell people why tourism is so important, he said. But the industry includes 20,000 jobs locally, he said. With 70-plus hotels and a myriad of restaurants, the industry creates a $1 billion impact annually. As voters consider whether to fund a convention center, they are weighing in on whether to continue supporting tourism in the city. According to Hackett, who noted other cities are investing heavily in convention centers. It's not a today problem, it's a 10-year problem, he said. It's really a decision for the city whether we want to be in the tourism business at the end of the day. Barbara Withers, president of the Springfield Hotel Lodging Association and of Elliott Lodging Ltd., said her organization voted to back the proposed tax both in 2025 and this time around. Withers said there are always opposing voices, and her organization's membership was no different, generally backing a center but with some balking at an increased tax. Really, the only complaint people had was the tax, but we have to have that to make it work, she said. Convention centers always have overflow, she said, and not everyone will stay at a convention hotel, something the Hunden report called essential to the convention center project, but that is not part of the city's plans. Some operators of short-term rentals in the city have expressed concern about the additional lodging tax. Real estate agent Brett Reinhardt, owner of Buy and Sell Realty LLC, owns multiple short-term rentals in Springfield. He declined to disclose how many. I see everyone's side of this when they say this is what brings tourism here, and this is why your hotels and Airbnbs are even rented, he said. But Reinhardt said the lodging tax is already 5%, and short-term rental operators are lucky if they make a 10 to 12% return. If you start adding another 3%, it hurts. How much more can I be taxed? Reinhardt said Airbnb operators must keep their nightly rental rates low to ensure bookings. A fully renovated modern house that is pet-friendly with a large backyard and a hot tub might rent for $110 per night, he said, and that gets people to click, but then they realize they need to pay a cleaning fee, an Airbnb fee, and a management fee. Lodging taxes are paid by Airbnb operators, Reinhardt said, though according to past SBJ reporting, they are not collected directly through online platforms. We can't keep tacking on stuff, Reinhardt said. Reinhardt said he could see adding a smaller tax. 1% I could see. That would add up to plenty for the city, but adding another 3%? Good Lord, he said. Springfield's current lodging tax is 13.1%, according to city officials, who say the proposed new rate of 16.1% would still be lower than Memphis, which is 18.75%, Overland Park, which is 18.35%, St. Louis, which is 17.93%, and Kansas City, which is 16.48% plus $3 per room per night. One vocal supporter of the tax measure is professional TV host, comedian, and MC Jeff Houghton. Houghton, who said that he frequently hired to host events at convention centers across the country, posted a video endorsement of the tax measure on social media. I am a downtown lover and supporter, he said. Downtown has had tons of momentum over the years, but it's kind of stalled a little bit since COVID. This would be a big shot in the arm for that. Houghton said he felt drawn to speak out about the value of a new convention center after seeing a lot of people with less experience with events expressing their views online. What it would mean for all those bars and restaurants and retail and overall for the Springfield economy is bonus money, he said.
And on this Friday, March 27th, we want to wish a happy birthday to Halle Bailey, probably best known for her role in the live-action Little Mermaid as Ariel. She turns 26 today. Pop singer Fergie turns 51. Nathan Fillion, an actor probably best known for his roles in Castle and The Rookie, turns 55 today. Mariah Carey turns 57, and Quentin Tarantino turns 63. A happy birthday to everyone celebrating today. And in local arts and culture news, we have a new mural taking shape at Campbell and Walnut in downtown Springfield. Daily Citizen staff bring us this story that begins with a photo of a bright green bald eagle painted on the side of a building. Work was underway Wednesday, March 25th on a new mural at Walnut Street and Campbell Avenue that will replace the Robert E. Smith tribute mural that was painted over in February. New building owner David Pear previously told the Daily Citizen he commissioned a patriotic mural featuring a bald eagle and American flag to align with his veteran-based business From Military to Millionaire that is moving into the space. Muralist Austin Sepulveda told the Daily Citizen he hopes to finish the new mural by Saturday, March 28th. Pear's decision to paint over the 26-year-old mural inspired by Smith, a well-known local artist, caused a stir among the Springfield arts community. Pear acknowledged he was unaware of the cultural significance of the Smith tribute mural and has donated $5,000 to a fundraising effort to have the mural recreated on a different downtown business. A GoFundMe titled Recreate Downtown Springfield's Robert E. Smith Mural has already surpassed its $15,000 goal, raising more than $17,000 in the first 3 weeks since it went live.
Thank you for listening to the Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service. Come by and see us in person with daily deals at 2713 North Kansas Expressway in Springfield, Missouri. Veterans receive a 25% discount every day, providing significant savings as a token of appreciation for their service. Additionally, the store features a weekly clothing sale where all clothing items are available at 50% off every Wednesday. Seniors aged 55 and older benefit from a 25% discount every Tuesday, making shopping more affordable for the senior community. And now today's weather. Chilly, breezy, and cloudy Friday. This is from Tom Schmidt at OzarksFirst.com. We broke yet another high temperature record on Thursday with highs in the upper 80s to low 90s across the Ozarks. Today, however, is a different story. We'll go from near 90 yesterday to the mid-50s this afternoon. A few light rain showers are lingering this morning in Missouri. They will slowly fade away as the morning progresses onward and will be dry by this afternoon. Clouds will be slow to clear and we'll be dealing with a chilly north breeze, 15 to 25 miles per hour. Temperatures drop to a light freeze tonight in the low 30s. Saturday will begin cold, but end mild with temperatures reaching the low 60s. Skies will be sunny on Saturday with a southeast breeze around 10 miles per hour. Sunday will be warmer and overall the weekend looks great. We end March with more warm weather and with highs in the 80s on Monday and Tuesday. Monday and Tuesday will also be very windy with gusts over 30 miles per hour possible on both days. April begins next Wednesday, and it looks like we'll find a chance for scattered rain and thunderstorms to start the month. As the pattern becomes more active to start April, we may find a chance or two for severe weather beginning Wednesday and possibly again next weekend.
And debut novelist Mickey Pierce releases The Route 66 Detective in Missouri. Jeff Kessinger and the Springfield Daily Citizen bring us this story that begins with a photo of Mickey Pierce in a pale yellow blazer and bright turquoise earrings, smiling for the camera. Mickey Pierce didn't set out to be an author, but Mac McCarty didn't give her much of a choice. McCarty is the main character in Pierce's upcoming series of novels, The Route 66 Detective. The first installment, titled The Route 66 Detective in Missouri, is available now in paperback and digital formats. She says the character just came to her out of nowhere. I woke up one morning about 15 years ago and I was just lying there in bed, kind of half asleep still, and just was thinking about this character, Pierce said. Did I dream about this guy or am I making this up? Where is this coming from? And so I just got up and I thought, you know what? I don't know, but this is really cool and I'm just going to start writing it down. So I got up in my robe until noon, sitting at the table, just writing stuff down that was coming into my head about this character, and then it just kind of evolved as I started following this path. It's a path that has been full of serendipity for the debut novelist, an East Coast native who has lived in the Ozarks for more than 25 years. Pierce doesn't really have a background in writing. The former art and preschool teacher had written curriculum, handbooks, and lesson plans, but never a book. Writing the Route 66 Detective in Missouri is the first serious writing she's done since college. Never had I thought about doing a novel, she said. I've always had creativity. I've been an artist forever, and it's always about the process, not the product, which is what I taught. And so I just got really into the process of writing and researching, which I was completely nerding out over doing the researching. It was so much fun. Following is a photo of the cover for the Route 66 Detective in Missouri by Mickey Pierce. It features someone on a motorcycle in a leather jacket riding down the road. And the word Missouri has beautiful Ozark photos inside it. 5 years after she first imagined the Mac McCarty character, she decided to get a little more serious. She attended classes and seminars, which helped her hone her voice and writing style. And then I had this product, and I was like, okay, but now I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with this, she said. Following is another photo of Mickey Pierce as she talks to the crowd at a launch party for her novel, held at Vineyard Market in Ozark. Looks like a very beautiful place. Pierce knew self-publishing wasn't the route she wanted to take, so she started exploring publishers. The immediate feedback was good. I mean, I never had anybody crush me, which has really contributed to the whole process, she said. Because I think if someone just said, lady, you're barking up the wrong tree, you're not a writer, I would have just stopped right there. It would have become something just for me now. Those connections didn't prove fruitful, however, and Pierce was ready to give up and put everything away in her shed. And then I read a book I'd gotten from the library and thought, oh, this is very much like the kind of book that I write. This is right up my alley, Pierce said. I looked at the back to see the publisher, and it said that they work with women over 50. Inspired, she sent her book to Sibylline Press. Within a week or two, she got a phone call from the company to set up an interview to see if it was a good fit for both parties. It just took off from there, Pierce said. The Route 66 detective is a former World War I flying ace who spent time exploring Europe by motorcycle before returning to the United States. Back home, he bought an Excelsior motorcycle and raced on the board circuit before settling down and taking work as a private investigator. In 1937, McCarty started working for an attorney in Jefferson City. The Route 66 detective of Missouri tells of McCarty's adventures as he cruises the Show Me State looking for the son of a wealthy zinc mine owner. Following is another photo of Mickey Pierce as she signs a copy of her debut novel during that launch event at Vineyard Market in Ozark. He quickly finds himself immersed in the world of Kansas City gangsters, Ozark moonshine, and murder, a media release from Sibylline Press said. With the help of an attractive motel owner, Mac plays hard, rides hard, and works hard to complete his assignment before more bodies pile up. Pierce wanted the book to be grounded in truth, so she spent time researching what things were like in the 1930s and references real places and events in the novel's pages. I wanted to make sure that when people are reading it, they're thinking about what Springfield looked like at that moment, she said. So I started going through all of those newspapers, just going through microfiche, and really geeking out over the history. There are just parallels to what's happening now that I think are important there. I think that the 30s were a big transition time, and I think what we're facing in the world today is a big transition time. Pierce also wanted to make sure the characters sounded like they were from the 1930s. Luckily, she grew up reading period detective fiction. I wanted it very specifically to have the flavor of the time, the pacing, and the manner of speaking of the time, she said. It's a happy accident, Pierce said, that the first book in the Route 66 detective series was released months before the Route 66 centennial. That's another example of the serendipity in her author journey. The plan for the series includes a book in every state along Route 66 from Illinois to California. The series isn't just about the crimes McCarty solves, it's also about his journey. My main character's story is the whole series, Pierce said. To really find out where he starts out and where he ends up, you have to read all of them, but each book is definitely meant to be standalone. Pierce has already finished the second book in the series and is about halfway through the third. She's working to get the Route 66 detective in Missouri into some brick-and-mortar stores to make it more readily available. In the meantime, she's enjoying the journey. The amount of support that I have felt has been incredible, she said. I went from not long ago being like, okay, this just needs to go to the shed, I'm done with this, to finding so many people being so encouraging and wanting me to succeed with it. To follow Pierce's journey and learn more about her books, you can visit her Facebook page.
From the Springfield Daily Citizen. School and fire officials worry about the property tax credit on the April ballot in Christian County. Christian County voters will consider a new tax credit on primary residents. It could impact funding for services like school, fire districts, and programs for seniors and disabled residents. Public schools, fire protection districts, and programs that provide essential services for disabled and elderly Christian County residents are concerned about the revenue impact of a proposed property tax credit that would effectively freeze taxes on residents' homesteads at the 2024 rate. When this first came out, it took us all by surprise. We all went into deep concern and we immediately got together and started discussing because there was just so much unknown, said Ozark Fire Chief Jarrett Matheny. On April 7th, Christian County voters will consider the following ballot language. Shall the County of Christian exempt eligible taxpayers from certain property tax increases on eligible taxpayers' primary residence above the tax liability incurred during the taxpayer's initial credit year? Missouri is requiring 22 counties to propose a tax credit that would effectively freeze property tax rates on residents' homesteads in the 2024 rate per a bill signed by Governor Mike Kehoe in June of 2025. Some counties, such as Greene County, are exempt from offering the tax credit, while others must propose an effective cap of 5% per year on property tax rate increases. The proposal shares similarities with the property tax relief program for seniors that was created by Senate Bill 190 in 2023. If the homestead tax credit is approved by voters, a resident's tax liability on their primary residence could still increase if the home is reassessed after improvements or renovations. Taxes on other personal property and commercial property would not be impacted. With the April 7th election approaching, Christian County faces unknowns about the proposal, said Eastern Commissioner Bradley Jackson. We don't know in the assessor's office how many primary residents versus rentals there are, he said. We don't know how many people will actually go through the process of applying for the tax credit. The vote is countywide. Matheny pointed out that residents within the individual fire and school districts could potentially vote against the tax credit to sustain current revenue for the services they receive, but voters in other parts of the county could outweigh their decision. Meanwhile, administrators for Nixon Ozark schools said they are worried about maintaining competitive wages for teachers if the proposal passes because neighboring Greene County schools' revenue will not be impacted by the same tax credit. The president of the Christian County Senior Service Fund expressed fear that there could be a disastrous end to curbing revenue for the program that helps thousands of elderly people access meals, prescriptions, and other essential services. The homestead tax credit was created in Senate Bill number 3, which cleared the Missouri Senate at the end of a June 11th, 2025 special legislative session. The bill was colloquially dubbed the Stadium Bill because of its provisions to finance new stadiums intended to encourage the Kansas City Chiefs and Royals to remain in Missouri. The legislation is the subject of ongoing litigation. I honestly believe that the court will probably strike down Senate Bill 3, Jackson said. I don't know that it's constitutional the way in which it came about with the whole Kansas City Chiefs incentive package deal to try to keep them here, and all of a sudden we've got Senate Bill 3 with this tax initiative that some counties will have no change, some counties will be capped at 5%, and some will be frozen. Christian County, the Ozarks School District, and Ozark Fire Protection District are among dozens of plaintiffs in a lawsuit alleging that Senate Bill 3 violates Missouri's Constitution. Senator Mike Moon of District 29, which includes Christian County, separately sued the state after legislators passed the bill. Thousands of people aged 60 and older rely on the Christian County Senior Service Fund for access to meals, prescription, transportation, light housekeeping, custom-made shoes, and foot care. The program is funded entirely by property taxes and has no paid employees, but operates with the help of about 15 to 20 volunteers. We actually, in parts of the county, drive down a one-lane gravel road with holes in it, and the trees and the brush have never been cut on either way, and so on, President Bill Anker said. But I can tell you, if you need food or you need help, we have a way to get to you. Volunteers bring meals to 15,000 to 18,000 homebound seniors every week. Anker said, while 10,000 people dine weekly in the Nixa and Ozark Senior Center's cafeterias. The senior service also offers transportation with buses hitting the Medical Mile in Springfield 3 days a week. In 2025, Anker said the program's 8 buses transported over 24,000 clients. The fund's budget for last year was around $900,000. The Senior Citizens Service Fund Board is uncertain whether it will be forced to cut services if its property tax revenue decreases. Anker said volunteers have not told the seniors that they serve about the possibility of service cuts, primarily because they do not want clients to be scared to death about where their next meal may come from. What are we going to do for these people that are all of a sudden going to lose that, Anker said. He stated that while the Senior Service Fund is not the only taxing district that offers essential service, it is the only one that has a disastrous end to it if the program faces a revenue crisis. Hundreds of Christian County residents with disabilities also rely on services funded by property taxes. CC Links offers employment services, transportation, and life coaching for over 700 people through the Christian County Board for the Developmentally Disabled. Property tax levy dollars also enable CC Links to fund a number of disability programs in the area, like Achieve of Southwest Missouri, Art Academy, and Champion Athletes. We just touched so many different aspects of the disability community, Executive Director Andrea Swope said. Last year, the program's operating budget was $1.4 million, she said. Swope emphasized that CC Links' revenue is already being outpaced by the increasing demand for disability services. We have our case management side that's grown about 422% since 2010, she said. Our tax levy, if you look at it over that time span, has grown only 87.7%. The superintendents of both Ozark and Nixa Public Schools emphasize that more than 80% of their district's budget go directly to staff salaries and benefits. The schools believe it could become difficult to offer competitive salaries and cost of living raises to keep up with Greene County schools. Republic will be giving their raises every year. Springfield will be giving their raises every year. If we're not, then we don't have the teachers that we have, said Nixa Public School Superintendent Gerald Loden. During economic recessions, Loden said, the district has enough money in reserves to protect its employees' salaries and potentially hire teachers who have been laid off from other districts. In this situation, you're put in a different position because the tax credit is not applied evenly. Although Nixa Public Schools has not released an estimate of Senate Bill 3's revenue impact, Loden said the district believes the revenue would roll back at least $2.7 million if property taxes froze at the 2024 rate. When asked what other options would be left for the district to make up for the loss, there are no options. You don't have the ability to make up for this kind of shortfall. For the Ozarks School District, residential property taxes make up 65.6% of the revenue, according to an informational website the district created. Ozarks schools estimate that it will lose $1.8 to $2.3 million in revenue in the first year and up to $10 million of revenue by the end of the 2028-29 school year if voters determine homestead property taxes should be frozen at the 2024 rate. It's really hard to say right now what the real impact is, Ozarks School Superintendent Lori Wilson said. We know it will impact something and we have to make decisions on what it is. She stated that the district may need to evaluate program services, class sizes, and the possibility of cutting some full-time positions when employees leave the district. In recent years, voters in both Ozark and Nixa have approved bond issues to upgrade facilities and construct new indoor athletic training spaces. Some voters may not understand that those budget items cannot cover operational expenses and wages. I think what people don't understand about school finance, when money is earmarked for those types of projects through bonds, we cannot use that money for salaries. Like the school districts, Ozarks Fire Chief Jarrett Matheny said his district is concerned about retaining and recruiting personnel, but he emphasized that the potential impacts of flattening funds for fire protection could be wide-ranging. I don't ever want to play fear tactics with our community and say, this is going to happen, we don't know, he said, but it could have an impact on response times. It could have an impact on insurance ratings. It could have an impact on, how we replace equipment, tools, and apparatus. It could have an impact on everything. Fire districts operate collaboratively. Matheny said that for every structure fire that takes place in Ozark, 3 to 4 other fire districts respond. Ozark firefighters provide automatic aid to surrounding areas including Nixa, Sparta, Chadwick, Highlandville, and Rogersville. This is not just a local impact, he said. This impacts the entire region because if we're not going to maintain our current staffing or our equipment, then going outside of our district is going to be it could be a risk. Local fire districts are already feeling the impact from steep inflation. Since Matheny joined the Ozark district in 2020, he said the cost of fire trucks has gone up 40 to 60%, and bunker gear has increased about 35%, while expenses for construction and insurance continue to rise. At a March 26th forum on Senate Bill 3, Nixa Fire Chief Lloyd Wales said, while the funding may be frozen at the 2024 level, the expenses are not. In November of 2025, the Nixa Fire Protection District asked the first tax levy increase since 2003 to help offset operational costs, and voters rejected it. Wales said asking for voters for a tax levy increase is a tremendous endeavor due to the labor required and expense incurred from running a ballot issue. Christian County Eastern Commissioner Bradley Jackson said many residents need tax relief. However, he questions whether Senate Bill 3 is constitutional, and he stated that the homestead tax credit would incur additional expenses for the county. I think tax breaks are something that a lot of people in our community need, Jackson said, but do I think Senate Bill 3 is the right one? I don't necessarily think it's the right tax break. Property taxes made up about 2.2% of the county's revenue last year, according to information from the county's auditor's financial transparency portal. Christian County is primarily funded by sales tax revenue, although the rate of annual revenue from sales tax has flattened since 2022. The county recently closed its recycling center and eliminated at least 2 full-time positions due to budget constraints. Christian County's commission pledged to roll back property taxes in 2025 if voters approved a local use tax, which would have applied the county's sales tax to items purchased from online vendors. Voters struck down that measure. Jackson said the county would likely need to hire at least 2 more employees to support the assessors and collectors' offices with the additional paperwork they will need to process each year if voters approve the homestead tax credit. We want to give tax relief to our citizens, but this particular way is going to cause us to have to put on 2 additional employees, which causes us to spend more money, which we then have to take from something else, Jackson said. We will rob Peter to pay Paul. On September 26, 2025, Ozarks School District and Fire Protection District sued the state of Missouri and Attorney General Catherine Hanaway, together with 2 individual taxpayers in other counties and school districts in Warren, Lincoln, Crawford, Washington, Franklin, Jefferson, Ripley, Butler, and St. Louis counties. An amended petition filed January 16, 2026, added Christian County and 30 other counties as plaintiffs. The counties are asking the court to declare that the homestead tax credit is invalid and unenforceable because it violates state law in several ways, according to the lawsuit. The General Assembly mandated a new service on counties by requiring them to place the tax credit on the ballot without financing the cost of the elections, a violation of the Hancock Amendment, according to the suit. Also, the legislation mandates that only certain counties placed a question on the ballot, which the suit claims is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause. And thirdly, the lawsuit states that the homestead tax credit is a special law prohibited by the Missouri Constitution because it irrationally, unreasonably, and arbitrarily defines certain counties as 5% counties, defines others as 0% counties, and excludes other counties. Missouri Senator Mike Moon of District 29 filed a protest and a constitutional objection against Senate Bill 3 while legislators were in deliberation about it in June of 2025. In his letter of protest, Moon said the legislation was an instance of unconstitutional partiality because only some counties would be allowed to propose the homestead property tax credit. Moon sued the state, Governor Mike Kehoe, and Attorney General Catherine Hanaway together with the St. Genevieve Representative Brian Wolfen and Dixon activist Ron Calzone in Cole County in July of 2025, alleging that Senate Bill 3 is unconstitutional. The court granted the respondent's motion to dismiss the lawsuit on February 16, 2026, stating that the petitioners lacked standing. Moon selected the 0% designation under Senate Bill 3 for Berry, McDonald, Lawrence, and Christian County. He did not respond to the Daily Citizen's request for a comment before publication. The story was written by Zoe McIntyre.
And Missouri hit-and-run deaths surge as AAA flags rising risks. Springfield News-Leader brings us this story from Dave DeMille in the Columbia Daily Tribune. Hit-and-run deaths are climbing across Missouri, according to a community announcement, with new AAA data showing the share of fatal crashes involving fleeing drivers more than doubling in a decade. AAA Missouri's analysis of Federal Fatality Analysis Reporting System records shows that in 2014, only about 3.2% of fatal crashes involved a driver who left the scene, compared with nearly 7% in 2023. At the national level, the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety estimates that 15% of all police-reported crashes in 2023 involved fleeing drivers, according to the announcement. AAA spokesperson Carly McInnes said the pattern is concerning, particularly when pedestrians are involved. Pedestrians have been disproportionately affected. In 2023, 39 of Missouri's 127 pedestrian traffic deaths occurred in hit-and-run crashes. Over the decade between 2014 and 2023, more than half of the 440 people killed statewide in hit-and-run crashes were pedestrians. Data also shows a third of victims were vehicle occupants, while motorcyclists and cyclists made up smaller portions. What follows is a photo of the aftermath of what appears to be a head-on collision with 2 vehicles whose front ends are both completely smashed up like accordions. Police and fire crews are standing in front with fire extinguisher and a lot of debris. State law allows for penalties reaching 10 years in prison for drivers who leave the scene of a deadly crash, according to the announcement. Kansas City recorded slightly more pedestrian hit-and-run deaths in 2023, though long-term totals show St. Louis with the highest decade-long numbers. Together, the 2 major cities account for the largest share of these fatal crashes. When population is factored in, Smaller communities such as Ferguson, Jennings, and Overland show some of the highest rates per 10,000 residents. Time patterns stand out as well. Nearly 3/4 of deadly hit and runs in Missouri between 2014 and 2023 happened at night on both lit and unlit roads. The crashes were most common from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m., peaking around 9 p.m. McInnes urged drivers to slow down at night, stay aware of their surroundings, and remain at the scene of any crash.
Springfield News-Leader from sports. Drury's D1 hockey season ends in overtime at a national tournament. From Maryland Heights, Missouri. The Drury D1 hockey program, built on a historic 2024-25 inaugural season with its second straight American Collegiate Hockey Association national tournament appearance, to close the 25-26 campaign last week in St. Louis. After an inaugural 24-25 season in which 2024 and 2025 season in which the Panthers finished the regular season as the number 9 team in the country and qualified for the ACHA national quarterfinals, Drury continued its rise in D1 hockey ranks with another captivating campaign, with the Panthers climbing as high as number 4 in the national rankings in January. With a top 8 ranking, the Panthers earned a first-round bye at the national tournament this season before matching up with the number 11 Calvin in their opener at Centene Community Ice Center. The Panthers jumped out to an early 2-0 lead on goals from freshman Nolan Boucher and junior KT Walters, but the Knights picked up a late first-period goal to pull within 1 heading into the first intermission. Midway through the second period, sophomore defenseman Lucas Sadowink, Sadownyk, scored a power play goal to give the Panthers their 2-goal lead again, but just 5 minutes later, the Knights would again pull within 1. It didn't take long in the third period for the Knights to tie the game, resulting in a tense final period, with the Panthers generating multiple opportunities to regain the lead. Nevertheless, the game headed into overtime, where Drury confidence was high considering its perfect 4-0 record in overtime during the regular season, as well as the performance of sophomore goaltender Joseph Kulachko, Kuchaslo, who faced 35 shots in regulation. The Panthers controlled much of the play in the extra period, including a power play opportunity 5 minutes into overtime. But late in the first overtime period, which would turn out to be the longest overtime game of this year's tournament, the Knights took advantage of a scramble in front of the Panthers' net, converting a goal to end the Panthers' season. Despite the setback, the Panthers completed an impressive second year at the ACHA D1 level, finishing the regular season 23-4-0 for a combined program regular season record of 49-6-0 in their 2 years of D1 hockey. Kuchaslo also led the way in net for the Panthers with a 16-4-0 record in the season. Defensively, the Panthers were led by sophomore Daniel Beaupre, 35 points, and Anmol Garcha, 34 points, while Walters also hit the 30-point mark with 31 points. In all, 16 Panthers players finished the season with double-digit point totals.
And feds say it was 10 pounds of cocaine, not fentanyl, found at a Springfield home. Harrison Keegan from the Springfield Daily Citizen brings us this updated story. Starts with a photo of a very unassuming-looking home at 1476 East McGee Street, where law enforcement served a drug-related search warrant in February. Charging documents now reflect that Drug Enforcement Administration agents seized more than 10 pounds of cocaine, not fentanyl, last month from a home in Springfield. Chaz Lebowski, 34, is facing a federal charge in connection with the February 12th seizure at a home at 1476 East McGee Street. The initial criminal complaint indicated authorities found 4 brick-shaped objects with a total weight of 4.65 kilograms, or 10.25 pounds. The white substance that made up the bricks field tested positive for the presence of fentanyl. David Ketchmark, Spokesperson for the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Missouri confirmed March 23rd authorities now believe the substance is cocaine, not fentanyl. Slabowski has been indicted on a charge of possessing cocaine with the intent to distribute. An investigation by ProPublica in 2016 found that field drug test kits are not always accurate, and further testing is often necessary for more accurate results. A 10-pound fentanyl seizure would have been especially noteworthy given the high occurrence of overdoses associated with the drug and the fact that the Springfield Police Department seized less than 9 pounds of heroin and fentanyl in all of 2025, according to its annual report. A 10-pound cocaine bust also reflects more of that drug than SPD seized in all of last year, which was 7.3 pounds. The mandatory minimum sentence for someone convicted of possessing large amounts of cocaine with intent to distribute is 5 years, while it's 10 years for possessing large amounts of fentanyl with intent to distribute due to the potency of the drug and its link to fatal overdoses. Slabowski has pleaded not guilty.
The Blind Community Thrift Store is a spacious 17,000 square foot thrift store located in Springfield, Missouri. It holds the distinction of being the first retail store worldwide to incorporate NaviLens technology, which significantly enhances accessibility for the blind, visually impaired, and non-English speaking individuals. This innovative system enables customers to navigate and shop with minimal assistance, fostering independence and confidence. The store operates as a nonprofit organization dedicated to generating funds that support the provisions of adaptive technology and training for the blind and visually impaired community, often at little or no cost. Visitors can learn more about the organization and access its services by visiting the store in person at 2713 North Kansas Expressway, Springfield, Missouri, or by exploring the website at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The website offers comprehensive information about the store's mission, services, and opportunity for community involvement, as well as details about the free store available to residents in the Springfield area. From the Springfield Business Journal, Postal Service to implement first ever fuel surcharge amid mounting fuel cost and financial challenges. The U.S. Postal Service is reportedly planning to impose a fuel surcharge on package deliveries for the first time in the agency's history amid surging fuel costs. The Wall Street Journal reported that the Post Service is planning an 8% surcharge beginning in April, and that the agency plans to phase it out in January of 2027, according to two people familiar with the matter. According to the report, the fuel surcharge will only apply to packages and won't affect letter mail. From the Springfield Daily Citizen, Chase Branham cemented his legacy at Logan Rogersville by helping the Wildcats win their first state title since 1982. Indiana-bound junior to decide on either staying at Logan Rogersville or transferring to a basketball academy for his senior season. The preseason list of team goals remains on the office dry erase board where head coach John Schaefer scribbled it months ago. Among them, beating the Vashon Wolverines, Missouri's premier Class 4 basketball program and winners of the last 6 state championships. Toppling Vashon has been on junior guard Chase Branham's mind quite a bit longer. Branham was in elementary school when his older brother, Jake Branham, scored 25 points in the 2019 state championship game to keep Springfield Catholic within reach of the powerhouse from St. Louis. Vashon beat the Fighting Irish 69-59, but Jake's gritty performance left a lasting impression on Chase. They played Cameron Fletcher and Phil Russell at Catholic, came up short, but seeing them compete with top 100 guys in the country, watching my brother play them, and realizing if he can put up a fight, I feel like we can too, Branham said. The Wildcats did more than put up a fight, and after losing in the semifinals and placing third in consecutive seasons, Branham and company didn't settle for moral victories. Chase knifed through the paint to attack the rim, and he knocked down shots from the perimeter too, scoring a game-high 31 points as Logan Rogersville shot a blistering 73% from the field. The Wildcats controlled the game wire to wire and downed Vashon 74-60 in the semifinal round. Logan Rogersville's talented supporting cast chipped in, but the script called for Branham to steal the show. He's done a good job of being unselfish and understanding the importance of, hey, you don't have to do it all, and you don't have to carry us like you did the past 2 seasons, Schaefer said. However, in the Vashon game, we went back to saying, hey, let's go, son. We're going to ride you through this, handling this pressure, being who you are, and being tough. We were up the whole game. It was crazy. You beat the king of Class 4 is what they say, Branham said. I mean, especially with the guys you grew up with, it's something you dream of. Logan Rogersville cruised by Clayton 72-36 on Saturday to win the program's first state championship since 1982. Branham, who is committed to the University of Indiana, averaged 21.5 points per game on 62% shooting this season. Preparing for life in the Big Ten Conference leaves little time to savor the moment. Me and the guys have been hanging out a little bit, enjoying the win, but also got some stuff coming up. AAU practice this weekend, USA basketball coming up in 2 weekends. Taking time to appreciate what we've done through the whole year, accomplish our goals, and I'm going to take time to appreciate that, he said. I can maybe name a couple of players in my 25 years that do work like he does, Schaefer said. It's almost to a point of too much, I like to see him balance more and maybe enjoy it. I think it's on to the next with him nonstop, and he never takes time to enjoy it. It's always, I've got to get better, I've got to work, I've got to do this. I think that's just who he is. I don't know that will ever change, but maybe he doesn't need to. What do I know? Maybe that's what the greats do, Maybe that sounds like Michael Jordan, like a psychotic about winning and whatever you've got to do to get it done. He's got some of that in him. Branham visited Bloomington at the height of the excitement for the first national championship for Hoosiers football, a glimpse of the scene that would unfold again if the storied Indiana basketball program returned to glory. That was one of the main reasons I chose Indiana. That and the coaching staff, the play style. The main thing I have to do is keep improving. I've seen improvements this year. My vertical, like in the beginning of the year, I can barely windmill dunk. And I threw down an East Bay, a between-the-legs dunk, mid-season. So it's crazy how things evolve, but still working on my handle, making sure I'm ready to go against that type of talent. Chase has another year of high school basketball to prepare. He'll have to choose between returning to Logan Rogersville to defend the state title or transferring to a basketball academy. Many of the best players in the country end their high school careers at academies such as IMG Academy in Florida, Oak Hill Academy in Virginia, Link Academy in Branson, Sunrise Christian Academy in Kansas, and many others. I've had thoughts of attending an academy. They've reached out, he said. As of right now, no decisions have been made. This is where I want to be at Logan Rogersville, but time comes when a decision has to be made. It might happen, but this is where I want to be with my guys. Andy Carroll is a freelance reporter for the Springfield Daily Citizen, and he currently covers the Springfield Cardinals and St. Louis Battlehawks for Scoops with Danny. Previously, he contributed to the Springfield News-Leader's coverage of Missouri State athletics and high school sports in the Ozarks.
And a skunk has been identified as Greene County's first rabies case of 2026. Susan Shuk and the Springfield News-Leader bring us the story this morning that says the Springfield Greene County Health Department identified the first case of rabies in 2026, according to a news release, which was in a skunk. The exposure risk to the community is low, the health department said. Here's what to know about rabies and how to prevent it. So how is rabies spread? Well, rabies is a virus that is most often spread through the bite of an infected animal. The virus is carried in saliva and brain and nervous system tissue, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Someone can also contract the virus if infectious material comes into contact with an open wound or scratch. Petting an animal with rabies or coming into contact with its blood, urine, or feces are not associated with risk of infection. Humans infected with rabies could theoretically pass the virus on to other humans through bites. However, the CDC reports no such cases have been documented. So how can I prevent a rabies infection? Well, the best way to prevent rabies is to keep your distance from wildlife. While wild animals most often carry the virus, domesticated animals like cats, dogs, or cattle can also contract it if they come into contact with an infected animal. The community is also advised to not approach animals that appear to be injured, sick, or dead, especially if you see nocturnal animals outside during the day, like skunks and raccoons. Vaccination can help keep pets safe from contracting rabies if they are exposed. Springfield City Code requires cats, dogs, and ferrets to be vaccinated against rabies. And what are the indicators that an animal may have rabies? You can't tell if an animal has rabies just by looking at it. A laboratory test on brain tissue is the only way to confirm a rabies infection. However, some animals may act strangely. A normally nocturnal animal may be out during the day, or a generally friendly dog may become reclusive and aggressive. When the virus is spreading from the site of the bite or scratch through the nerves and into the spinal cord toward the brain, an animal will not show any symptoms according to the CDC. This phase, called the incubation period, can last for 3 to 12 weeks. Once the virus enters the brain, it causes inflammation and then moves on to the salivary glands. This is the point where most animals begin to show symptoms of rabies infection, including problems swallowing, excessive drool or saliva, excessive aggression, biting at imaginary objects, sometimes called fly biting, unexpected tameness, trouble moving, or paralysis. In humans and animals, once symptoms of rabies infection manifest, the disease is almost always fatal. And what should I do if I think I've been exposed to an animal that has rabies? Well, if you are bitten, scratched, or exposed to the saliva of any animal, including animals in your house who aren't up to date on rabies vaccines, you should clean the affected area with soap and water for 15 minutes, according to SGCHD. After cleaning the area, seek medical attention to determine what treatment may be needed. After seeking medical attention, people should inform animal control about the bite, who will assist them in the steps that need to be taken with the animal. You should also contact animal control if you see wildlife or unfamiliar animals that seem injured or sick, or you think your pet may have come into contact with wildlife or unfamiliar animals, or if you see a bat inside your home. If you have been exposed to rabies, a series of post-exposure prophylaxis shots, as well as wound care and human rabies immunoglobulin, will help prevent you from developing rabies. Rabies treatment is nearly 100% effective if you get it after exposure, said SGCHD.
From the Springfield News-Leader, the local obituaries. Friday, March 27th, 2026. Reverend Ronald P. Hittenberger passed from this life to the next. Carolyn Hittenberger, his wife of 65 years, was with him when he peacefully passed. Bill Kirkpatrick, age 93, of Nixa, Missouri, departed this life on Tuesday, March 24th, 2026. From Tuesday, March 24th, Hap Anderson, 89, from Nixa, Missouri, passed away March 20th. Arrangements provided by Klinger Cope Family Funeral Home. Janice Rollitt Morrison, aged 80, of Springfield, Missouri, passed away on March 15th, 2026, at the age of 80. LaDonna Lynn O'Brien, age 71, from Springfield, Missouri, a Springfield medical practice executive for 40 years, passed away on March 21st, 2026, after a courageous battle with cancer. Saturday, March 21st, 2026, Paula Durkers, 75, of Springfield, Missouri. Paula Jean Deal of Stratford, Missouri, passed away peacefully in her Stratford home Thursday, March 19th, 2026, after a 13-year struggle with breast cancer. From Friday, March 20th, 2026, James J. Jura, age 83, a man of profound faith, distinguished professional leader, and devoted family man, passed away on March 18th, 2026, at the age of 83. Linda Payne, P-A-Y-N-E, passed away on January 15th, 2026, in San Antonio, Texas. She was born August 12th, 1951, in Springfield, Missouri. And Christopher Mark Pelham, age 44, of Springfield, Missouri. He entered into the joy of his Lord on March the 5th, 2026, leaving behind a legacy painted in the vibrant colors of his faith, family, and relentless hope of things not yet happened. And from OzarksFirst.com, posted a few minutes ago, Springfield utility customers see higher summer electric bills as costs rise. Customers of city utilities of Springfield can expect higher electric bills this summer, with average monthly costs projected to increase about $14 compared to last year. City Utilities said the increase is driven by a combination of higher fuel costs. Officials said the utility experienced an estimated $8 million shortfall over the winter due to higher than expected fuel costs, including spikes during Winter Storm Fern. To recover those costs, the average residential customer will see an increase of about $9.45 per month over the next 6 months. An annual increase comes from the 3.9% electric rate adjustment approved by the Springfield City Council in the fall of 2023. For a typical customer using 900 kilowatt hours per month, that adds about $4.79 to monthly bills. Combined, the changes are expected to raise electric bills by approximately $14 per month for average users. City Utilities President and CEO Dwayne Folk said the adjustments are necessary to maintain reliable service. "We do not take these adjustments lightly," Folk said. While we recognize that increases are never welcome, allowing infrastructure to age beyond its useful life or fail ultimately costs far more in terms of both reliability and affordability for our community. Natural gas rates are expected to remain steady over the next 6 months. Despite the increase, city utilities said customers continue to pay below average rates, with electric costs about 27% lower than the national average and about 9% lower than the Missouri average in fiscal year 2025. Officials encourage customers to monitor their energy usage and explore efficiency programs through the utilities' tools and rebates. Those experiencing financial difficulties are urged to contact customer service to discuss payment options or assistance programs.
And Springfield's metropolitan statistical area surpasses 500,000 residents. A story from Jeff Kessinger in the Springfield Daily Citizen. The Springfield metropolitan statistical area has surpassed 500,000 residents, according to population estimates released on March 26th by the U.S. Census Bureau. The MSA recorded a population of 500,694 on July 1st, 2025, growing by more than 5.31% over the April 2020 census base of 475,435, reflecting 6 consecutive years of steady gains. Reaching 500,000 is more than a demographic milestone. It's a significant economic development threshold, Jonas Arges, Senior Vice President of Economic Development for the Springfield Area Chamber of Commerce, said in a media release. It reflects the attractiveness of this region for families, businesses, and workforce talent. We expect this recognition to further accelerate business interest in the Springfield area. The media release says corporate real estate professionals and site consultants routinely screen markets by size, and the 500,000 number moves Springfield into consideration for projects that previously bypassed the region entirely. For a metro with established strengths in manufacturing and distribution and logistics, that expanded visibility translates directly into more opportunities, the release said. The milestone also reinforces Springfield's standing as a regional center for healthcare and professional services. And another No Kings protest is planned in Springfield. See when and where. Marta Meese from the Springfield News-Leader says after thousands of people lined Chestnut Expressway in June as part of a national No Kings protest, a similar protest is planned, this time in South Springfield, as part of another nationwide mobilization effort on Saturday, March 28th. The No Kings national movement says it opposes the policies of President Donald Trump and rejects what our organizers call authoritarianism in coordinated and peaceful protest events that span all states in support of democracy. In Springfield, a protest is planned to take place from noon to 3 p.m. Saturday, March 28th, on the south side of East Battlefield Road between Campbell and Glenstone Avenues. The local event is being organized by several community organizations, including Greater Springfield Indivisible, a local 50501 chapter, Show Me Community Peace of the Ozarks, and Community Together 417. What follows is a photo of the estimated 2,000 people who lined Chestnut Expressway last June as part of the National No Kings protest. Additional events are planned across Missouri and the Ozarks. In total, more than 3,000 No Kings events are planned March 28th across the country, according to organizers. With every ICE raid, every escalation abroad, and every abuse of power at home, Americans are rising up in opposition to Trump's attempt to rule through fear and force. Each day, Trump crosses a new red line, and more people are deciding they've had enough, said Ezra Levin, co-executive director of Indivisible, in a statement on the No Kings website. This is the third mass-scale protest day planned since Trump took office in 2025 for his second term. The one in June was followed by a second event in October. This is the first of the No Kings nationwide days of protest this year.
From the Springfield Business Journal. Missouri ACA enrollment drops nearly 10% as subsidies expire. Enrollment in the Affordable Care Act marketplace plans in Missouri fell by nearly 10% this year, according to new data released after the close of the 2025-26 sign-up period in January. About 365,000 Missourians enrolled in coverage, roughly 42,000 fewer than last year. Health policy experts point to the expiration of enhanced federal tax credits as the key reason for the decline. The subsidies had helped keep premiums low, and without them, many consumers are now facing significantly higher cost for similar coverage. My internet is so slow.
Oh no. And in sad news this week, the Dickerson Park Zoo euthanizes a tiger after finding irremovable cancer. Marta Mees and the Springfield News-Leader bring us the story about Cinta, a 12-year-old Malayan tiger who was humanely euthanized on Monday, March 23rd at the Dickerson Park Zoo after the veterinarian team found irremovable cancer. According to a DPZ news release, Cinta was transported to the zoo hospital after his caregivers noticed a change in behavior as the tiger appeared lethargic and was not interested in food. Exams showed he was anemic, and an ultrasound revealed his abdomen was full of blood from a bleeding tumor. DPZ head veterinarian Stephanie Carl said in the release that during emergency surgery it was discovered the tumor was not removable and the decision was made to euthanize the tiger. While pathology reports will reveal more, we do know this type of cancer was fast growing. It was not present at Cinta's exam last December, she said in the release. It typically shows no symptoms until the tumor begins to bleed into the abdomen, which causes weakness due to anemia. Cinta had been in Springfield for only a year, arriving from the San Diego Zoo in March 2025. He was paired with female tiger Barisi as part of the special survival plan through the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, according to the release. Malayan tigers are considered critically endangered, with fewer than 300 estimated to remain in the wild. Our hearts are heavy, said Brandy Downs, the head zookeeper over tropical Asia, in the release. Yesterday, we said goodbye to our big, handsome boy. These decisions are never easy, but his quality of life and comfort were our top priority. Cinta served as a magnificent ambassador for his species, and he will be missed.
Former Kickapoo guard Hannah Hayden named head coach at Memphis. Hannah Hayden continues to rise in the collegiate coaching ranks. The former Kickapoo standout was named the head women's basketball coach at Memphis on Wednesday following a successful 2-year stint at Georgia Southern. She was recently named Sun Belt Conference Coach of the Year after leading the Eagles 23-8 to their first conference title in 25 years. Hayden takes over a Memphis program coming off 3 consecutive losing seasons. The university represents a city and state with an incredible passion for basketball, and I look forward to building a championship program that embodies the pride and toughness to reflect that passion, Hayden said in a news release. After cultivating a winning culture at her previous stops, Hayden looks to get Memphis back to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 1998. 2 years ago, Hayden was in the Division II ranks, helping Georgia Southwestern State go 24-9 and reach the national quarterfinal. She was named 2024 WBCA Division II Coach of the Year. In her 5 previous seasons at NJCAA Moberly area in Missouri, Hayden's teams went a combined 118-36. Hayden was given her first head coaching job at the age of 23 at Harris Stowe University NAIA Conference in St. Louis. Hannah has demonstrated a sustained ability to win at every level and lead her teams to postseason success throughout her career, Memphis Athletic Director Ed Scott said in a news release. She embraces the opportunity at Memphis and aligns fully with our vision of competing for championships. Hannah is a proven leader who brings exceptional drive, determination, and energy, and we are confident she will elevate our program. We are excited about the future of Memphis women's basketball under her leadership and look forward to building a championship caliber program. Hayden played at Kickapoo under the late Stephanie Phillips before transferring to Oak Hill Academy in Virginia her senior season, 2009-2010. Hayden is one of 3 current Division I head coaches who played under Phillips at Kickapoo in the 2000s, including Molly Miller at Arizona State and Heather Ezell at Wyoming. Steve poking around the remarkably dedicated TSA workers who have kept the SGF airport running smoothly. Editor's note, President Donald Trump announced late Thursday that he would sign an order directing the Homeland Security Secretary to immediately pay TSA agents. The New York Times, citing individuals with knowledge of the plan, reports that the administration is expected to use funds provided to the Department of Homeland Security last year as part of Trump's tax cuts and domestic policy law. Details were not immediately clear on how long the solution would be viable. Now to the article. Let me ask you a question. How long would you keep showing up for work without being paid? I've never experienced that, but I know a few journalists who've had their paychecks bounce as the newspaper where they worked went belly up. I definitely would not go 41 days. I'd be greeting people at Walmart after a week. What kind of chiseling scammer would not pay workers for 41 days? Well, that would be none other than our United States of America. As you know, Transportation Security Administration employees have been caught in the political crossfire of Democrats who stopped funding parts of the Department of Homeland Security Administration as they demand reform of the tactics of immigration and customs enforcement, while Republicans stand firm in their belief that little reform is needed. All of which leads me to something remarkable that happened at the Springfield Branson National Airport. The 70 or so TSA agents at the Springfield Airport kept working, doing their job, despite the financial hardships they face. The number of them calling in sick did not change when they stopped being paid. Nothing changed other than their financial hardships. You're hearing of airports with call-out rates of 40 and 50%. Our call-out rate has not increased since the shutdown. Brian Weiler, airport director, said Thursday morning he's retiring at age 60 later this year. The TSA workers are not his airport employees, they are federal employees, but they are Wheeler's co-workers and friends. You can tell I'm a little bit impassioned about this because they are my friends, he said Thursday before the president's announcement. I've been here 15 years and there are people I recognize from my first day here. They are longtime employees who just happen to be dedicated public servants. I see them every day. I know about their kids. We talk. I see the hardships that they're going through, and it just makes me sad as an American and frustrated as an airport director. I don't see any sense of urgency with our political leaders, he said. I'm not pointing fingers at either one. I'm pointing fingers at both sides. Guys, can you just resolve this? Come to some compromise. That's what we elected you to do. Weiler pointed out that not all airports were hit hard by TSA agents quitting or calling out. He recently flew from Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport in Arlington, Virginia, and things moved smoothly. Ren Lubbering, the airport's marketing and communications coordinator, recently flew from Miami where things moved smoothly. I have a friend, a journalist, who recently flew from Logan International Airport in Boston where, to her great surprise, things moved smoothly. From media reports, she said she had expected it to be a nightmare. Every 2 years, the airport surveys those who fly in and out of the Springfield Airport, Weiler said. Every survey reveals the same 2 things that flyers like most about the airport: the clean bathrooms and the efficiency of the TSA workers.
The time is 12 p.m.
They'll switch back and forth, 1 and 2. There has been a constant in my tenure here. We've got a great team here, and it's like my neighbor, a good friend of mine, is being screwed over. And does it tick me off? Yeah, it does. Last week, I was at the meeting of the American Association of Airport Executives in D.C., he told me. There were 100 plus airport directors and senior staff. Our speaker asked, How many people here are running food banks for their TSA workers? And about half the room held their hand up. This is the United States of America. I mean, come on, I'm a veteran. It's sad, it's embarrassing as a country. It's frustrating to me that our political leaders use valuable aviation workers as basically political pawns, Weiler said. Ozarks Food Harvest brought in a truck, Weiler said. Others have purchased and sent meals from restaurants. There have been things like that. In the past, there have been local banks and credit unions that have done zero-interest loans for them. I think it's indicative of the Ozarks. It's the way we are, Weiler said. Weiler introduced me to the TSA supervisor, who told me he cannot be named or quoted in a news story per TSA media protocols. What I will say is that he might have told me something like this. He and his fellow TSA staffers are thankful for the community support. If you're interested in helping, Weiler said, don't just show up with a casserole. There are do's and don'ts on how to best help these 70 people who take their work more seriously than most of us do. But then again, keeping someone from getting a bomb on board an airplane is a lot more important than, say, writing a column. If TSA agents, again, go without pay, and if you want to help, call the administrative office at the airport at 417-868-0500 or email the airport at info@flyspringfield.com. One of the best things you can do, Weiler said, is while passing through TSA screening at the airport, tell these dedicated people face to face, thank you. I appreciate what you're doing. This is Poking Around, column number 345.
And as we come into the weekend, if you're looking for something to do, Taryn Shore McKee with 417 Magazine brings us the best things to do this weekend in Springfield and around southwest Missouri. The article begins with a photo at Finley Farms. It's an aerial photo of the bridge. Looks quite relaxing and beautiful. Clearly taken at a different time of year when everything was very leafy and green. No foolin', April is less than a week away. With it comes one of the year's more curious holidays, April Fool's Day. While its exact origins are hotly debated, the most widely accepted theory dates back to the 1500s when France switched from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar. Those who missed the memo or refused to accept the new system continued to celebrate the new year on April 1st, becoming April Fools and the butt of well-timed pranks. Luckily, there's plenty happening around the Ozarks this week that's no joke. Whether you're catching the Harlem Globetrotters in action, leveling up your sourdough skills, or diving into something more unexpected, like Riverside Sound Bath Experience or Monty Python screening perhaps, there's a wide range of ways to get out and try something new. You'll also find fun opportunities to give back, like a hands-on park workday and live comedy for a good cause. In other words, whether you're in the mood to laugh, learn something, or just get out of the house, this week's events have you covered. Looks like the first couple of events on the schedule have already passed us by, so we'll begin with March 28th, Farm to Bridge Dinner, Alpha Gal Friendly at Finley Farms. Head to Finley Farms for a unique dining experience that immerses you in a twinkly, elevated atmosphere. Sit at a family-style table on the Riverside Bridge under the twilight sky while enjoying a 6-course menu with wine pairings prepared by the Ozark Mill Restaurant's culinary team. Bonus, everything on the menu is Alpha Gal friendly and many ingredients are grown right on the farm. It's $125 and that is at 5 p.m. Also, March 28th, we have Easter at the Farm at Rutledge Wilson Farm Park. The little ones will love this spring-centric event that includes an Easter egg hunt with 20,000 eggs, crafts, games, and a visit from the Easter Bunny. New this year, there's also a maker's market featuring all local makers. This is a free event from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and the market until 5. March 28th, Sequoia Park Conservation Workdays. Roll up your sleeves to help remove invasive winter creeper along the Galloway Creek Greenway, an important step in supporting reforestation. Wear pants and bring water and gloves and a willingness to dig in, literally. All ages welcome, 9 to 11 a.m. March 28th, Rise into Spring, a yoga and sound healing experience. If you already love the ground at Finley Farms, this is your chance to experience them in a new way. Head to the Riverside Open Air Chapel for a gentle yoga flow class, followed by a sound healing session. This is $25 and is from 10 a.m. to 11:15 a.m. March 29th, we have Stand Up for Glow at the Springfield Comedy Club. Ready for a little laugh out loud comedy that supports a local nonprofit organization? At this event, see celebrated comedian Cassie Duncan take the stage at Springfield Comedy Club for a good cause. Proceeds from the evening's event support the Glow Center and its mission in the Ozarks, glowcenter.org. Tickets range from $23.29 to $34.29, and the event is at 6 p.m. March 30th, we have the SEAS seminar, the Geography and Geology of Beer, the Springfield Brewing Company. Calling all beer geeks. Learn about how geography and geology, local water in particular, influence beer throughout the world at this free event. The instructors aren't just anyone. Brian Allen, the brewery's head of production, and Toby Dogweiler, MSU professor of geology. And finally, April 1st movie matinee, Monty Python and the Holy Grail at the Gilios Theater. Brush up on your absurd British humor and head to the Gilios for an aptly timed big screen showing of this cult classic. Arrive early for throwback trivia. $5 admission or $10 combo tickets that include a snack and non-alcoholic drink. The show starts at 2 p.m. and the doors open at 1.
Thank you for listening to the Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service. Tune in every week, Monday to Friday, on the Blind Community Thrift Store's YouTube channel at 10 a.m. for more up-to-date news from the Springfield News-Leader, Springfield Daily Citizen, Springfield Business Journal, and 417 Magazine. Listen after we are live on the Audio Reader Network at www.reader.ku.edu. All broadcasts are played over KSMU's subcarrier airwaves at 67 kilohertz on 91.1 from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Contact Audio Reader Network for information on receiving a pre-programmed radio.